Ladies and gentlemen and friends beyond the binary, welcome to Monday Discourse for today, December 6th, 2021. I'm your host, Tristan, and oh boy, is 2021 flying by. We are almost at the end, folks. Just a little bit before we get we get Mia into the call. My name's Tristan. I am the host of Step Back and the co-host of the wonderful podcast It's Probably Not Aliens, of which I got this fucking wonderful treat through eBay. So that's fun. What do you know? I also stream 2 days a week. I do the Monday Discourse with Mia Mulder from 12 till 2, and I do Step Back tonight on Tuesdays from 7 till 9. That's all Eastern time in North America. Should mention, though, that I'm doing that for, including this week, 3 more weeks, and then I'm taking a few months off because of some paternity leave stuff. It's going to be real fun. I'm legitimately excited. We're getting very close. I go by he, him pronouns, and if you want to support my work, you can go to patreon.com/stepbackhistory. You could, if you have Amazon Prime, give me one of your Twitch Prime subscriptions. You get one per month, and it's basically baked into your membership, but you support creators that you like. If you like me, you can support me. If you have some change rattling around in your digital pocket, super chats, bits, Twitch subscriptions are all welcome and appreciated, but of course, they're not necessary. If my latest video is on Project Cybersyn, which you can watch now. It's been out for a little while, so you probably have seen it by now, but it's my latest video. My next video is going to be on Kyle Rittenhouse, and I will give an update on that, which is that the script is done. Now I'm working on some other scripts, but the script is done, and so I'll be filming it I'll be filming it soon. I have to film it soon. I'm running out of time to do things. But current plans are to get it submitted to my sponsors by the 16th. And then probably a couple days after that, probably the following Monday, then it will probably come out. So expect like December 20th-ish as the release time for that video. But that's a very tentative. That's, based on all sorts of different factors that could happen. And yeah, if you want to submit questions for future streams, I'm hanging on to them. I hang on to every question until I go on sabbatical, until I take my time off. So this is a link where you can submit questions. I'm going to put in the chat there. And of course, the last thing I wanted to cover is if there are any new people in the chat, we have a very wonderful live chat community that's very cool. And I would love for people to come say hello because, it's a very mutually supportive type thing. So please be a part of it. It makes this whole thing much more interactive and much more fun. I saw that It's Probably Not Aliens is on iHeart, and I listen to so many podcasts on there. I absolutely loathe the ads on there. It's Probably Not Aliens is not on iHeartRadio. I feel like I would have known if it's on iHeartRadio. Well, I'm not part of the iHeartRadio network anyway. But yeah, back to everything. So I guess I should probably just call Mia and get the person you guys really want in here. So let's do that. The call's connected, but I don't see you or hear you.
Oh, shit. There we go.
Now I can hear you. I can't see you.
You can't see me. We're doing great. Okay.
It looks like your camera is turned off. Like it's got the mute camera kind of icon there in the corner.
How do I...
How do you rotate PDF rotating? Oh, you're making progress there a second ago. There we go. It's loading. We're just rotating some PDFs, guys.
We're rotating PDF like nobody's business. As far as I can tell, my camera should be on.
I don't know what to tell you. I see no Mia.
I don't know what to do then. We can.
Is there another program that maybe is?
Have you muted my camera, perhaps? Because I can see myself in the Discord window.
Oh, now I can see you. You just showed up.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Fuck
my!
yeah.
I didn't know that you're cyberpunk now.
Yeah. Discord has a new feature where you can do shit.
Oh.
I love this. I need to figure out how to do this for streams too, because this is cool.
Okay.
It can also be in a movie and
Right.
on Vaporwave. But I'm going to be in Cyber City because it's fun, and it's more fun than my office, at least for now.
Ooh, I should do that. Let me try to get that going.
Oh shit, this is fun.
Oh wait, it doesn't work for me because I'm technically not doing this through Discord. So,
Yes.
hello.
Hi, Tristan, my good friend. We have rotated PDF successfully.
Yes, stream engaged. I love how like in every science fiction thing that they've just got video chat, like it's just seamless and integrated, and it's like that has never been the way that it is.
I really desperately want like a comedy sci-fi show where they just like they try to connect a call. It's very important. They Fate of the Galaxy is heading on it, and they're just like, no, it's pixelated.
Yeah, it's like the Avengers with like, you know, when they have those like hologram Zoom meetings for the post-credit scenes. Just have one of those, except that somebody's like pixelated and they're trying to figure it out, and like, oh no, I accidentally left my anime cat girl filter on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mulder. I've successfully connected, which is good because you never know with this thing. Either it's tech problems, or the entire country that I'm in becomes encased in ice, which is happening here because we had a cold snap, and then we had another cold snap in the middle of a cold snap.
Yeah, you're celebrating Sweden's. I know I don't want to get copyright struck for this, but I should be putting on Fight Song because Sweden has successfully girl bossed its way to its first female prime minister, and it lasted multiple hours, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so it lasted a whole of 7 hours.
This is your fight song. This is your moment. This is the culmination of all feminism.
This is modern feminism. I mean, yeah, we finally did have our first female prime minister for 7 hours, and then the government collapsed, and then she had to reform the government. And in order to reform the government, you have to resign. So even though it sounds completely like chaotic, everything is like going according to like the practice that's supposed to happen. Like, and even the government falling apart is just like, no, this is supposed to happen. Just because we had a government, but the budget for that government didn't go through. And the idea then is that like if you don't win your own budget, the idea is that, well, okay, we failed then as a government, so we have to resign and try again.
Yeah. Canada has had one female prime minister. I don't remember it because she was prime minister when I was a babby. Like, I think I was in maybe kindergarten when this happened. Mm-hmm. But, okay, so you know how in the 80s, maybe not Sweden, but a lot of the Anglosphere was back on it again, and we had elected like right-wing neoliberal people like Reagan, like Thatcher, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Canada's was a guy named Brian Mulroney, and like a lot of the other neoliberal right-wing 80s governments, it came crashing down to the ground. It just like burned down to the ground. But they were going into an election where they knew that the Conservatives were going to take a massive hit because everybody hated them, specifically over NAFTA. Canada agreed to join NAFTA, and everybody in Canada was mad about that. Basically, yeah, they basically like Canada's joining NAFTA and we're giving away a whole lot of our economic sovereignty to the United States, and we're probably going to lose a lot of our cultural identity through that. And it was the equivalent of that, what's it called, that Fallout 3 meme. Everyone disliked that. So Brian,
which is, by the way, one of the few good memes in existence.
Yeah. So what happened is that to try and make the election, get something out of the election, they ran the prime minister resigned, and the new leader was Kimberly Campbell. And you know that it went well because she currently lives in the U.S. So Kim Campbell was prime minister for the election for this conservative party that was Hindenburging basically before our eyes.
I like googling it. It autocorrects to some like random American actress who I don't know about, which I feel like says a lot about both Canadian like supremacy on the internet and also about the like influence of this prime minister.
Yeah, she was let me just get this. She was prime minister from June 25th to November 4th.
Solid.
So her career was full of a couple interesting turns. One, the leader of the Liberal Party who was running against her and was the official opposition, his name is Jean Chrétien. And one thing that's notable about him is that he has a partially paralyzed face, I think from some sort of childhood illness. Mm-hmm. So the Conservatives ran an attack ad against him, making fun of him for having a partially paralyzed face and only speaking out a part of his mouth. Yeah. And Jean Chrétien... Yeah, and Chrétien in very Chrétien fashion was just like, well, at least I speak out of one half of my mouth and not both. He's also the prime minister who punched a guy on live television for throwing a pie in his face. And also, a burglar broke into the prime minister's house, and the security didn't catch him, but the prime minister did. He's like the most he might be the most French Canadian man that has ever existed. Anyways, he campaigned on Canada not joining NAFTA, then got elected and did it anyway. So he is part of the Trudeau political party, obviously.
Incredible! I love this.
Yeah. But yeah, so so the Conservatives went from a majority government, over 50% of seats, to 3. Not 3%, 3 seats.
Bro.
The Progressive Conservative Party basically died in that election, and they never came back. It was so bad. Okay, just listen to how like fucking wild mid-90s Canadian politics was because of this. It was so bad that the official opposition in government was the Bloc Québécois, which is the Québécois Separatist Party. Just imagine the Labour or imagine the Conservatives doing so poorly in an election that Labour completely takes over, and the opposition is the SNP. And you can just imagine how bad it is.
Yeah. That's actually incredible. I love that.
Yeah.
That is like something you hear. I mean, this is a great story. I can't wait for the Netflix documentary about it.
Oh yeah. The thing is
Tiger King ass levels of drama.
I was like a kid at the time, like a toddler and stuff like that. So I didn't realize that I was like living through one of the most unstable periods of Canadian political history. Like in 1995, when I was like 6 years old, Quebec had a referendum on whether to join the country or whether to separate and become its own country, and it only failed by 5 digits of votes.
That is that is quite something.
And there was a lot of like problems, like how like 90+% of French Canadians voted to leave, but 90+% of Indigenous people and immigrants voted to stay. And so like if that referendum had gone through, like what we would have done about that situation, because the Indigenous people technically live on reserves, which is technically managed by the federal government. And it's like, oh fuck, this is going to be so rough.
Christ. Everything about this is a clusterfuck, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, this is a fun time to be alive. Fun time. Well, I don't know. I couldn't remember much of it, but Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
A fun period of time to study. I feel like that's sort of the. I feel like the equivalent for me would probably be like when our prime minister got assassinated and everyone had no idea what the fuck was going on for a little bit.
yeah, when the CIA, sorry, I mean, somebody
When the
assassinated.
Central Intelligence Agency invaded my sovereign territory and killed our prime minister.
Yeah, when the prime minister of Sweden got Operation Gladioed.
Yes. Speaking of that,
Sorry,
I
it was either the CIA or Mossad, one of those two.
Working together.
Yeah, I mean, we're two best friends.
Not to derail the conversation talking about my own shit, but like, there's a Netflix show about that murder of the prime minister, and it's currently being sued for defamation of the guy that it's about. Because the case is technically unsolved. There's one guy who like everyone kind of figures did it, but there's no like conclusive evidence that he did. But the show basically posits that like no, this guy killed Palme, and this is a show about that guy, and they're currently being sued for like slander, basically, for basically saying that like this guy actually killed the prime minister. So that's a current like ongoing Sweden versus Netflix battle.
Oh god,
that we're dealing with here, which is very fun.
the only Wilder story is, and I can't believe this is true, that Australia had a prime minister who just went swimming and never came back. And
Yeah,
nobody knows what
disappeared.
the hell happened to him. Like he died somewhere at sea or something, and just his body was never found. So it's just he's just gone.
He just swam out, never came back. Prime ministers have a weird history of failing.
At
What?
keeping their heart beating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm interested in, because this might happen, because my conspiracy theory is that the Queen is dead, and that they're just waiting until
has been.
February.
Yeah, it has been for a while now.
But the thing is that like Canada becoming a republic in the next like decade or so might not be the most outlandish thing ever. And I'm not familiar with the system of these countries where they have a president and a prime minister, but the president doesn't do much, like Germany or like Turkey or whatever.
Yeah. Like imagine being president of Finland. Like you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're just there to like be a fun guy at events.
I mean,
It's kind of weird how America has like the role of like chancellor and president together.
yeah. You'd think that would be a weird conflation of powers, but
Yeah. I mean, America has a tendency of doing that.
yeah. But yeah, I guess we should probably also mention about 18 minutes into the stream, who are you?
Yeah, of course. I completely blank. Hi, my name is Mulder. My pronouns are she, her. I keep forgetting my pronouns, but I should say them. I make YouTube video essays on youtube.biz. I recently made a video about drugs, which is like overperforming in a scary way.
It's a very good video, is the reason.
Thank you. I honestly thought that it would underperform significantly when I made it, because I'm honestly not that happy with it. But it's my most successful video ever, and it's like beating like you know how the view counter typically like it goes up on the day of release and then it just flows down in like an arc.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's went up like to the side for a bit and it keeps going.
I told you that this would happen someday. What's it called? I have a sixth sense about when YouTubers are going to do well, and I always said that Mia was going to be one of the ones. So,
Fucked up. I'm not okay with it.
just remember me when you're what's it called? When you're fancy.
Dude, I know that you're going on paternity leave, but I want to keep doing these Monday streams.
Yes, excellent.
Like, I want to do these, no matter how many subscribers I have. I also want to do these streams because it's fun.
It is fun. It is very fun. Yeah, I listened to your stream while drinking coffee in Starbucks on a Sunday morning at like 7 a.m.
As the gods intended.
Yeah. Oh man.
That is the preferred viewing experience.
Yeah, that's how it was designed.
It's my creative vision.
I feel like I must be the only human being who doesn't work at a Starbucks who goes there at 6 a.m. on a Sunday or 7 a.m. on a Sunday.
Does that even open that early? Oh, I guess it does for like.
Yeah, shift workers got to go get their coffee.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's also right by
true.
a hospital, so.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Then I get that. Yeah. Nurses probably being the biggest demographic there.
Yeah, but yeah, so that was fun. Yeah, so the video was good. As somebody whose drink experience is limited to tea and a single time taking a sip of coffee, it was an interesting. It was interesting to learn about all the things, and it kind of makes me, because this kind of spurred the conversation with my wife about how we're going to have the drug talk with our impending child.
I like your impending child.
Like very impending, like a month from now.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, that your imminent child.
Yes. New child just dropped.
How did your parents ever have like a drug talk with you?
No, they just let the DARE program take care of it for them.
I've heard about the DARE program.
Mostly the way that my parents talked about drugs with me was you should never do drugs, but also your dad smoked a fuck ton of weed in college, so we can't really say a whole lot about that.
That's fun. My parents never had a drug talk. I asked them about weed once, and the only thing that my parents told me was like, we've tried it, we didn't like it, it made us feel bad, so don't do it. Basically like that, like not discouraging me too much, but still saying that like it can suck.
Yeah, my parents brought up more concern with like getting in trouble with the law than the actual like. Anything that's just for weed. Everything else was like, yeah, that's evil. That'll kill you.
Yeah.
You know.
I think that's sort of the assumption. I feel like
when Mike, I already am like, because Kelly's gonna hate my drug talk with my son because it's gonna be like, all right, first of all, thank you for talking to me. Number.
Thank you, son, for talking to me, your father.
Yes. So number one, we're going to get you some test strips because the number one thing you need to know is that if you are going to do drugs, you have to make sure that they are safe. Two, if you are going to take any drug, you should go online to, I'm trying to remember what the name of that wiki is, but the wiki that keeps like a bunch of like very good information about the safety of use of all sorts of different substances. So you know what it is you're getting and what is the safe way to use it. And then, having a plan for if things go bad. But besides that, it's like any other activity that has dangers associated with it, like going hiking or going camping in the wilderness, or I don't know, going target shooting. It's like, yeah, there's dangers involved, but if you're a responsible person and you understand the risks and do your best to stay safe, then it should be. It's not a thing that I'm going to. I'm an anarchist, so I can't. I'm just going to be like, I can't tell you what or what not to do.
I feel like that's a pretty like, that's a very like pro harm reduction drug talk. Very responsible. I feel like that's pretty. I think that's pretty nice. Yeah.
My main thing, the one thing I'll be a huge fucking dick about, is test strips, because there's too much fucking fentanyl going around right now that, like. Because the opioid crisis in America is sort of seeping into Canada, so test strips, test your shit. If you take stuff that you don't test, that'll get me mad.
Yeah. No, yeah, like that's like I didn't really mention like harm reduction that much in my video specifically about that, but like because I already made a video about like harm reduction, and I felt that sort of covered it. But at the same time, like. There's definitely, like test your shit.
Oh yeah, and also get them. Get them some.
It goes into everything.
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna get. I should definitely get them a naloxone thing. Like take that with you, just in case.
Sorry, what did you say?
Some people in the chat are pointing out I should also get him a naloxone kit because
Smart.
even if you don't do drugs, you might be around somebody who accidentally takes a fentanyl, and a naloxone can save a life. So if you're going out to a party, have it on your person. That's just advice for everybody now, honestly.
Yeah. It's kind of weird how we're in this situation, not because of like, because like you grow up on this sort of like the idea that like drug abuse is like a problem that like people get themselves into, and here we are because like four like ultra corporations wanted to make a lot of money, and now this is sort of what we need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the vast majority of people who like the reason why fentanyl is getting into everything is because it's cheaper than regular heroin, and the reason why people want opioids in general is because they've become addicted to prescription opioids. That's like 78%, I think, of like all new drug addictions are just from prescription, like over prescription of opioids.
Yeah.
Which is fucked up. Like you would have to have 5 people make bad choices or whatever that like anti-drug people say.
Some people were asking about how much naloxone kits cost. Sometimes they can cost as much as $120, but there are a lot of cities that will give you them for free, depending on what kind of drug policy your city government has. But there are a lot more cities that are giving people free naloxone kits.
Yeah, you can also. I'm not sure how much of this is applicable. This might be more practical and like depending on where you live. But you can also contact like your emergency services and like police departments and fire departments. Probably more fire departments actually, because I think cops are a bit more hesitant about that because they're dicks. But sometimes they will just give you that as well.
Yeah. If you are if you're specifically in Ontario, you can go to any Shoppers Drug Mart, which is a big pharmacy chain here, and get it for free.
Mm.
So yeah, there's a lot of places where you can get it for free. I don't know about America because America is the country where a lot of things that should be free are not. But
yeah.
But yeah, that was
it's a good thing to have.
But it was a really good video. I learned. I think it was a really good way to describe the things, and also just like a really good way of talking about how we need to be fucking grown-ups about drugs. And the way, if you think about it, the way that our hyper anti-drug take like that we were raised into is extremely childish and is getting a lot of people killed.
Yeah. I saw someone compare like naloxone kits to like a fire extinguisher. That's like, it's good to have one close at hand, like, and hopefully you'll never need one.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that's like, if you don't have one and you need one, that's when shit's fucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What an interesting conversation topic that we went into.
Yeah.
But it's good that we're having it, because harm reduction is good, folks.
Yes. And like also things like what's it called? Knowing how you can get what's it called? Like don't there's another thing that I'll get fucking pissed off about is don't fucking reuse syringes. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Not worth it.
Because like that, like honestly, if the DARE program was about that kind of shit, like I feel like a lot more people would be alive today.
I think so too, honestly. We didn't have the DARE program in Sweden, but we had like the equivalent, because I assume it's this thing about like a cop shows up at your like gym one morning with like a placard with various drugs on them and just tells you how they will all destroy your life.
It's way worse. A cop shows up like once a week for like 2 months and talks about various actions, and you watch a lot of very bad animated videos. And then you get a certificate to say that you're never going to do drugs.
I think I've actually seen one of those animated videos. It's like, oh shit, I remember it was like a kid in real life, like real footage. And when they took drugs, like cartoon characters came out. to say that like they're disappointed in them or some shit like that. Bro, like what a weird system.
Mm-hmm. And on the needle thing, there are needle exchanges, yes, and like what's it called? I don't know if y'all have heard of this, but diabetics exist, and so the world is full of a lot of people who have tried to make needles as cheap as possible. Yeah. So that that was a great orb to ponder today.
Yeah, but basically, yeah, I made a video about drugs. That's what I do.
Yeah, know your shit.
Oh, you can also, because I think this was part of a conversation about who I am. I also am part of a podcast. It's called Leech Fest, that talks about medical history. And we made 2 episodes about narcotics. So if you want to hear like a discussion about me and my very good friend who talk about medical history, you can do that. And we've done an episode about LSD and psychedelic mushrooms. Speaking of drugs.
Yeah, I have a hankering to give that a try sometime. Anyways,
I do not, because it's very illegal, and I would never break the law.
Yeah, me neither.
Mr. Police Officer.
This is true. I would never ever do an illegal drug.
We signed the certificate from there.
Yeah, I signed it. It's legally binding. I only do the drugs that are legal. Speaking of which, oh man, I freaking,
are you gonna? Yeah.
I freaking flexed on you on the weekend too, because I had like a THC infused like seltzer thing, so it was like a weed White Claw, and holy shit, it fucking put me under. But it's just like, wow, we are like living like I am living in like the cannabis elite, while everybody in the countries where it's illegal are like still. I think I said still buying their weed from a sketchy guy named Oleg.
Yeah. And you're making watermelon sci-fi drinkable weed.
Yes.
That's what you said. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kids in Europe still have to like ration their bags of edibles like it's the Second World War.
Yeah, they're still smoking stems. Meanwhile, I have like a vape pen that you can buy cartridges for that you just
like a soda stream, basically.
Like I get promoted tweets trying to sell me weed from the government. Like
I saw that when I was in Chicago. I saw the like on Twitter as I promoted the tweets being like, "Hey, buy weed," which I've never seen in my entire life before or since. It's a little surreal because like Sweden is still like hardcore anti-narcotic in like every sense of the word.
Why is that? Why like what's it called? It's like the two parts of the of Europeans especially. Like how Europe is the place where they're weirdly anti-drug, except for the places where they're weirdly not. And then the other one is Europe is where the left is still staunchly pro-Israel for like no reason.
And like I honestly have no clue. Like I did some research for the video, and I don't really get it. I think it's just like this cultural like remainder thing from like the prohibition and the temperance movement, because like in America the temperance movement like completely fell apart after prohibition was repealed, but like in Europe it still kind of kept around, like because Europe never like fully banned alcohol in the same way that the US did, because alcohol is such an important part of like European culture. So I think that like the temperance movement just like restricted alcohol pretty heavily, and then just kept around because it never got like a counter reaction. There was never like a counter movement against the temperance movement, and then it just moved on to like when drugs were banned. That was still seen as the cultural consciousness being like just a regular good old fashioned thing. Whereas in America, I think that cultural thing of like we have to ban things for the good of the society isn't as popular just because there is this just because there was this sort of like rebellion against the temperance movement and prohibition.
So you're saying
That's
Al
my
Capone is why weed is legal now?
yes, shit. That's true. Al Capone is the reason why weed is legal in the U.S. now,
Oh man.
and why it's not here because we didn't ban it as hard.
I loved
it's-
our
yeah.
temperance movement. Canada's temperance movement was so fucking silly because we did prohibition alongside the U.S. but legalized whiskey for medicinal purposes, which is just the most like hilarious combination. And also Quebec opted out. Quebec never had prohibition ever.
Yeah,
But then furthermore,
because they're French and they need it.
yeah, French people need wine to live or else they die.
Yeah.
What's it called? Wine is the one thing that keeps their hearts from exploding from eating nothing but butter and bread their whole lives.
Critical support, though.
Critical support for them for that. I love that for them. But the thing is, Canada made like an absolutely ridiculous amount of money by smuggling whiskey into the United States. So like to the point where there's still like lakes and rivers on the Canadian-American border where we find like, 1920s period like 100-some-year-old bottles of Canadian Club. There was recently a house where they were doing some renovations and they opened a panel on a wall and found that it was just completely stuffed full of bottles of 1920s Canadian Club whiskey, and it was in upstate New York. And it's like, okay, yep, I know this story. To the point where even today, Americans have a taste for Canadian whiskey. It's like you can find Canadian whiskey in almost any bar in America because they developed a taste for it during Prohibition.
That's amazing. I love that. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
So yeah, Canada like very sarcastically got on board with Prohibition, and we also abandoned it like in less than 4 years or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, Christ. Yeah. Sweden just made the government sell alcohol and just kept with that. So because there was never like a big swing back and forth, I think that's part of the reason why.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I saw a medical expert on like a morning TV show a few days ago talking about like how, because someone sent in like a viewer question being like, hey, no one's ever died of like a weed overdose, and like there's no like it's not a dangerous drug, like why do we ban it? And the doctor went off on like a very angry rant being like, that's a lie. Thousands of people die every year due to cannabis overdoses. There are heart failures. There are liver failures due to cannabis. And just like, bro, this is the level of like the baseline of discourse in Swedish, like discourse.
The only danger of cannabis, as far as I know, is more to do with the fact that you're smoking something than the actual cannabis itself. Like it's got a lot of the health hazards associated with smoking because it's smoking, but But in the end, like, you don't smoke weed as much as you smoke cigarettes, except for one roommate I had who had a legit smoker's cough created by weed.
Yeah.
He smoked an absolutely prodigious amount of marijuana. Like, sometimes he would smoke way too much to the point where he would throw up. Like, he...
Bro, okay, well, at that point, it's definitely time to calm down.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen another human being smoke that much weed. It was intense.
That is actually kind of incredible.
I was a little impressed.
It's like hotboxing the entire apartment.
Yeah. That was the last roommate I had who was not Kelly.
God.
Yeah. And you can, here you can just vape your weed or apparently drink it. So there you go.
Here, people, have you seen that meme about like in places where weed is legal, you can go and buy like deluxe Mountain Dew, Baja Blast, Kush deluxe weed, whereas like in Europe you get weed.
Yeah,
it's weed.
It's either
like,
good or bad.
Different strains, like fuck off. No, it's weed. Enjoy.
Yeah, the only difference is whether or not what Oleg got this time was good.
Yeah, exactly. God, speaking of that, actually, the cops like busted a huge marijuana plantation in in southern Sweden, and the funniest shit about that was the villagers around. Everyone was smoking the weed,
Nice.
so the cops came in and like the news interviewed everyone. And was just like, yeah, it's a damn shame they made good weed. The cops have been like trying to like they have no support in the area anymore just because they took out like one of the few like actual productive weed farms in Sweden.
Yeah, I also like how Europeans are like vehemently anti marijuana, but then they'll be like, "Oh, but we're gonna eat fish that has like literally rotted in a can. We're gonna go bury fish in the backyard, covered in lye, and eat that months later. This
Yeah.
is safe. This is the safe thing to do. Cannabis
This
is
is
too
the good
dangerous.
thing. This is normal.
Europe, the continent of maggot cheese.
Well, Christmas is coming up soon. I'm about to eat my stinky cheese. That's not even a joke. Like Christmas is coming up, and I'm going to eat the stinky cheese. The stinky fish. Sorry.
You're gonna eat lutefisk.
No, I'm gonna eat surströmming. Lutefisk,
Okay.
I'm not super into. I think the Norwegians are more into that, but I'm definitely doing the surströmming.
Oh God, sounds like
Mhm.
it sounds like a horror show.
Yes. If you want to have a good time, dear viewer, go to YouTube and search for BuzzFeed and surströmming, or like Swedish stinky fish, because there is a wonderful video set to like Mozart's Requiem or some shit, where various Americans are dying from eating this thing, and it's part of like a series where they try foreign food. And most of the time they're like, "Oh, this is weird," or like, "Oh, I don't like that," but it's I support it. Like I support their cultural like differences or whatever. This time they're like, a lot of them can't eat it. Some of them gag. I think one of them throws up. Like it's amazingly funny to see.
Yeah,
And I eat that on hard bread because it stays as shit.
Surströmming is known for being very, very, very smelly, and also that the inside is pressurized because it's not fermented. It's fucking rotted. So one of the things that's really interesting, though, that I think is very amusing was that one video, I think I sent it to you, of an American who was trying it but didn't appreciate that and opened it and the juice sprayed all over the interior of his car. And it's like, oh no.
Exactly, because the can is like a German gasoline tank from the Second World War because it's literally built so that it can expand under its own fermentation. So like the gases from the rotting fish can expand the can without it exploding, but it is pressurized. So when you do open it, it does spray. So, pro tip: open it underwater.
This was, people have been evicted from apartments for eating surströmming.
You're not allowed to bring it on planes. It's like banned because it's pressurized. It can explode and it's stinky.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The smell isn't that bad. You are lying. The smell is one of the worst smells I've ever smelled in my entire life. Tastes good though.
Oh man. So here's some questions.
Listen, we've had a good and wholesome discussions. We've talked about health, harm reduction. We've had a good time.
But the first question I got here is from Sam, who asks what our opinion is on syndicalism.
I think it's interesting. Wish it was more popular, I guess.
Yeah, syndicalism is one of those things that has, like, it has a bright and dark side. Like, anarcho-syndicalism is a great idea. It's like, for the people who don't know. So syndicalism is basically an idea of, hey, what if instead of governments and private corporations, the world was just run by trade unions? You know? Like, the medical system would be run by the doctors and nurses unions. And, like, the electrical system would be run by, like, the electrician union or something like that. And we would organize society through, what's it called? Syndicates, which is, like, in every, like, Latin-based language, the word for union. Like, syndicat is, like, the French word for union, and, like, yeah. So syndicate is basically just a word for union, which gives some idea of where some of the syndicates went. Because yeah, some syndicates, their trade was crime. But the problem is that the problem that does come up though is that there are also syndicates that are less good, or syndicalists that were less good. Like famously, Benito Mussolini came out of the syndicalism movement. I don't know how he made that leap from syndicalism to fascism, but he's not the only person who did it, and there were a lot of syndicalists in that one period who leaped over to like Italian-style fascism.
Mm-hmm. See, I think a part of it was like they saw syndicalism as like an alternative to like you get a lot of like the good ideas of communism, but you don't have to deal with communists, and that way they can sort of like justify doing the things that they like while also doing other things that most communists don't like.
Yeah, like studying history, I was always just like, how is it that so many like communists then became like fascists in the 1930s and 40s, and then all of a sudden like half of the online left has turned into fascists in the last like 9 months. So
yeah,
so they were just works in weird ways. Yeah, they were just the Jesse Singles and Peter Coffins of their day.
God, I don't even know what's going on with Jesse Single anymore, because he blocked me like ages ago, like long before YouTube. So I had no idea what he went on.
Yeah, and so the people like Mussolini, who were syndicalists who then became fascists, are more like your Jimmy Dores, who just in it for the grift, I guess.
Turns out, like, that's something that I remember reading about fascism, that like a lot of people who went into fascism, like, are like were just whole ass grifters. And that was the case like the in Germany too, where people were like, yeah, like I'll jump in with Nazism because I can get my corporation to become better using this.
And that became Fanta. No, Fanta was the secret company that was made so that Coca-Cola could get around German, like, what's it called? Like trade embargoes on Germany. So Coca-Cola made a phantom German company called Fanta so that they could sell Coke products to Nazis.
Yeah. A Coke product that they could make from like local German ingredients too, right? Because there were a lot of things that they couldn't do to send over, like you said, like because of the blockade.
Yeah.
After the war, I'm just reading about Fanta. After the war, the Coca-Cola company regained control of the plant formula and the trademarks of the new Fanta product, as well as the plant's profits made during the war.
Oh man, clever, interesting. That's weird. I don't know why would such a thing happen. That's weird. Probably nothing to worry about.
I'm playing both sides. Everyone gets Fanta.
Yeah. There's the other one too, that like BMW used slave labor during the war and has yet to pay reparations to the families of the slaves they used.
Yeah, Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, the giant pharmaceutical like German company that like makes so many pharmaceuticals, developed a lot of those pharmaceuticals by experimenting on humans, and the only thing they had to do after the war was like they had to close down the operation and then just reopen again. They just had to like make a new company, but all of the same people could work there, and they could keep all of the like copyright and like intellectual property. They just transferred it from like the Nazi company to the West German company.
If you're a company that knows that, you know, wars always end and embargoes always only last so long, you just set up the company and be like, all right, you guys exist here, we're not associated with you, and then after the war's over, we come back together.
Yeah,
it's perfect. It's what's it called? And nobody ever got blamed for it.
Wonderful. Anyway,
yeah, life is good. Syndicalism does have some good ideas. I do think that if we are to have like an anarchist organized society, that having trade unions be a way of organizing the different like sectors of the economy feels like a way to manage a big and complicated economy that doesn't involve, like, you know, this is the electrician union's town. You can't. That sounds like some like post-apocalyptic shit. This is electricity town. You can't come here. But organizing through different sectors of the economy feels like a better way to organize society than just like taking a piece of geography and say this all belongs to me.
Yeah.
All right, the next question I got here comes from a person named Tristan, CIA agent. Fun. Okay. Interesting.
Interesting.
It says opinion on long distance relationships, specifically those involving people in different countries. Ooh.
I've never had one. I know it can be difficult, but I also know that it can work. I have had a lot of friends who made it work. So I think you just gotta be like patient.
Yeah.
I guess that's the biggest thing.
There's a certain type of personality that it works with. And it's like, yeah, not pretending it's like, I have never been in one, so I can't really say. But but that's because I've been in very few relationships, period, in my life. So there's that.
Struck a gold early.
Yeah. Like I married like the third person I ever dated. So there's that. But yeah, like
that's really sweet actually. That's so wholesome. I love that.
And the first person I dated after high school. But that was more because I spent most of my 20s single, but that's whatever.
That's just being an historian.
Yeah, that's just being grad school. Yeah, that's... I know it can work. I imagine there's advice from people who are veterans of this. So, that's that. That's I can't really add much more to the conversation than that.
Yeah.
All right. The next question we got here is from Nuntius Mortis. All right.
Interesting.
Just finished watching the November 29th Discourse, which is interesting because that was the discourse that ended prematurely.
Yes. The gods of the internet decided no.
Yeah. I think your internet wants you to go vegan. Sorry, something about the chicken wings just compelled me to send this. On that note, just a short question. Do you feel there's a big uptick in veganism in your communities in the last year, like in regular stores, more vegan restaurant options and such? I went vegan at the beginning of the year, environmental reasons primarily, but a mix of stuff at a certain point, and have a feeling like I accidentally got on a wave of veganism and vegan products suddenly becoming available. P.S. Tristan, I know you've been cutting back on meat for health reasons and wanted to congratulate you on eating your veggies. It took almost 25 years for me to start eating mine. Wow, that's sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's been a vegan wave, and it's been going on for a long time because, like, there's been a lot of turning the corner science-wise on a lot of meat substitutes, not just for things like Beyond Meat and stuff like that, which is really somehow taking off, but like also things like just like egg substitutes that you can use for baking and stuff like that is becoming more of a thing. But yeah, the general trend has been dietary restrictions in general. They have been taking off more and more often. There's people on all sorts of different diets now, and it's now profitable to cater to more of those if you want to, get the more health-conscious millennial demographic. So it's not only vegan stuff, it's also like the opposite of veganism, which is like keto people who eat nothing but like vegetables, meat, and cheese. Or Christ, there's even people who are like into that freaking Jordan Peterson meat diet because they don't like pooping. But yeah, it's becoming more of a thing, and I will say Beyond Meat actually it kind of owns. So yeah,
I think so too. Yeah, I've been eating more and more vegan as well, like for the last 2.5 years roughly. It's good shit. They are definitely coming up with more options. Although I would personally like if they came up with options that aren't all like minced meat. Like meat crumbles, like come out with like vegan fish. If someone comes up with like good vegan salmon, I will sell my soul for it.
Yeah, I think there is a sort of vegan salmon, but it's like a recipe and it's made with tomato, I want to say, where they make the flesh of a tomato, so it has sort of the texture of salmon, but they flavor it to have a bit of a salmony taste.
I've made I made vegan salmon using carrots and salt. Basically, you just like encase like sliced carrots in like salt and you bake it in an oven for like fucking forever. And that apparently uh, is supposed to taste a bit like salmon. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that honestly, like veganism is definitely getting bigger, especially as we're becoming more and more climate change conscious. I do think that the only real thing that's going to make a difference in the world is getting on board with that, with developing meat that is made by culturing muscle cells in a like brewery, which is a technology a lot of people are investing into, and it already has. I think there's like a company that's making them and making cultured chicken nuggets in Singapore right now. So it's a growing industry that once that actually like comes through entirely is going to be a pretty big deal. And if it because like if they can get making meat in a brewery down, then that there's no way that's not cheaper than raising animals. So it'll switch pretty fast.
Yeah, probably.
So there is something to that, and I think that that is really the technology that we're going to have to convincingly crack to really end the commercial meat industry. Especially because right now any like offset that the West is doing by eating less meat is being overthrown by the growing Chinese middle class having a higher meat desire. Like a lot of countries that are sort of emerging as middle class countries, like China and to a lesser extent India, are increasing their meat consumption at a much faster rate than people are going vegan in places like the West. So, well, there might be open India because there are a lot more vegetarians in India for religious reasons, but
Yeah, but it's still increasing. So it's going to be an interesting like journey in terms of like food production.
yeah, and like having more stuff available because like not only is there like dietary restrictions, but also stores are becoming a lot more kind to like people who what's it called? People like Mia who cheese makes their stomach go wild, or
I
what's it
love
called?
that you know that. I
Cheese
love
makes
that
my.
you already know that.
There's an Australian TikToker who does like a bunch of like jokes about it, and she's just like, cheese makes my butt breeze or something like that. It's like, oh god.
Jesus Christ.
Or people who can't eat wheat gluten because they have celiac disease or any of those types of things. And what that ends up is you having more healthy options to choose from, which is nice if you're.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the main gist of that.
It's definitely increasing. Also, I have to ask you personally before we move on because I started thinking about it and I can't let it go. How are your cats?
Cats are good.
Nice. I haven't seen them in very long, so
Yes.
I was hoping that everything's fine.
It was okay. So it was easier to have the cats in the room when I was streaming when there used to be a cat litter box in my office. There is not a cat litter box in my office anymore. So when I close the door to stream, because my wife works just down the hallway, I have to kick the cats out. But they're fine. There's a cat tower just off the screen over here that Phoebe hangs out in all the time, but they're good.
Nice, lovely. I was sure that they were fine. But I needed the cat mom inside me needed to have confirmed.
Oh yeah, yeah. Phoebe is a troublemaker, and now that we've got a Christmas tree up, is testing how much she can get away with in fucking with the Christmas tree.
Yeah. Good. That's what they're supposed to do. I love it.
All right, okay. The next one. This is good. This is a good question. All right. What would you do if you were the captain of the Kobayashi Maru test? So Mia, what's your Kobayashi Maru? Like, what do you what would be your how do you handle the Kobayashi Maru?
I gotta say, with the first thing that came into my mind, I'm not sure if this is gonna be accurate, or if this makes me sound like a self-righteous asshole. But honestly, what I would do is I would, as quickly as I can, I would centralize more and more power into more and more of the control systems, either into automated or to give it to myself in the captain's chair, and I would just send as many people as I could to the escape pods.
Ah, so
While
like
I,
what's it called? Kelvin Kirk's dad maneuver.
yeah. That's probably what I would do. I hate that I say that because I don't think that it makes me sound like a self-righteous asshole. But there's a part of me that's just like, if I'm in charge, like if I'm the captain, like there's a part of me that I think has been drilled into me from the Navy that's like the captain goes down with the ship, and I feel like there's no scenario where I survive that like finishes the scenario where I come out looking good, except if I die. So I may as well risk it all, and if I die, I'm remembered well.
Yeah, so there's a couple answers that I would have to. It would depend on the sort of tactical situation, but I think my answer to the Kobayashi Maru is number one, whether or not the Kobayashi Maru's shields are disabled, which I think they are usually. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've looked this stuff up. Second is I can't remember because I don't think that the show has ever really been 100% consistent on this. If you can transport through shields, through like your own shields, or if you have to take your shields down to transport somebody.
Yeah, it's never been consistent on that part.
So if we live in the what's it called? If we live in the Schrodinger's cat where you can transport through shields, then I would probably put all power to the end, all transfer power to the shields and the transporters, and try to do like a series of rapid transports to get as many people off while avoiding Klingon attacks as much as possible, and then getting the fuck out of there as soon as possible. If it's not that situation, if you have to lower shields to transport, then things get a lot more complicated. But the main thing would be either there's two options basically. One, do the fucking arithmetic and run, because the Kobayashi Maru's already lost at that point in my mind.
Yep. Yeah.
And saving your crew saves more lives than killing you and the Kobayashi Maru by trying to save it. That's the strict utilitarian answer. But then the other one is if we think we could pull it off, taking shields down and going on like intense amounts of evasive maneuvers to basically take as much structural integrity damage as possible to beam as many members of the Kobayashi Maru on board before raising shields and fucking off as fast as possible. Those are my two options. But for the most part, it's run.
Yeah, I think we both have like various things about run. If is it in conflict with Klingons? I think that's the Kobayashi Maru.
It's a Kobayashi. So the way that it works is that as far as I remember from reading the Memory Beta article on this like 1,000 years ago, is that it originally was Klingons because it was made during the time of that weird war that they never talk about that takes place just after the time of Enterprise and before TOS. Mm-hmm. The war where the Romulans and the Klingons were allies, and in the peace treaty, that's why the Federation can't develop stealth technology or something like that.
The part of Star Trek history that no one really wants to talk about because it's too clusterfucky, so they just leave it vague.
It's supposed to be the war that TOS takes place in the Cold War after, basically. It's the World War II of the Star Trek universe. Because The Star Trek universe was supposed to be in like the TOS era. If you ever watch it, the Starfleet's a lot more military, a lot more of a military, and they're much more in a Cold War footing with the Klingons and the Romulans, and or not even, because when you meet the Romulans, they said like, oh yeah, we haven't seen one in like 100 years or something like that.
Yeah, like since, yeah, it's good shit.
Yeah, so
I need to watch Star Trek again. I'm finishing up on Stargate now, so I need to finish that.
although I do think that the plan was that if Enterprise got 7 seasons, they were going to get to that, because if you look at the timeline of the show, by season 7 they would have been in that war. So, and they were season 4, they were building up Romulans and as a threat and stuff. So they were probably going there if Enterprise had not been canceled, and maybe if it was good instead of being not good. But if that war is a World War II of Star Trek, then what would the Dominion War be? It's interesting. The Dominion
the Dominion War is weird.
Yeah, the Dominion War is supposed to be, if you want to like talk about it thematically, is that after, because like the undiscovered country is supposed to be the end of Starfleet as like a military organization on defense against the Klingons, and the beginning of Starfleet as like this exploratory astronaut type organization. Yeah. And then the Dominion War is supposed to be a test of that, but because it was written by reactionaries, they took it as like, oh yeah, they just become more militaristic. Although all of the Deep Space Nine episodes are like all about how it's a test of like the ideals of it that they have to hold to, even when things are really against it. And that was like thematically what it was supposed to be about, because that's what Deep Space Nine, the theme of Deep Space Nine was taking all of the idealism of the Star Trek universe and putting it up to a test.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine fucking rules.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of nothing.
So we answered the Kobayashi Maru question, so I think we're good.
Yes. I should say though that like if it's against Klingons, I'm definitely fighting to the death. Just because if I like personally, the crew fucks off, but like I'm fighting to the death because Klingons respect that shit, and that like in my mind gives me more opportunity to like save the crew.
Yeah, there is
respect like that heroic sacrifice bullshit.
Isn't there like a diplomatic option that would be something like I don't know, don't the Klingons have like let's settle this one-on-one battle type thing, like Batleths at dawn type thing?
Listen, I would do that as well. Like if I die, I die, but like battling a Klingon face to face would be very fun. Mm-hmm. That would be good. I'm not sure it would work because I think that's more like how they get promoted. Because that's how Klingons get promoted within their own like navy hierarchy. They just kill their superior and take their place, based. But yeah, if you could do the diplomatic route, then yeah. If not, I'm fighting to the death. Also, Stargate, yes, worth watching.
What did you think? Somebody's asking me, what did you think of the Ori when you got to the end of Star Trek? I don't know anything about Stargate, so I don't know what that means.
That's fair. The Ori is a weird like alien. It's an alien species that gets like more powerful the more people believe them to be gods. So they go around like proselytizing their fire religion, and the more people believe in it, the more powerful they get. And they basically send out like missionaries to spread it by force. It's a little. You can tell that they're running out of ideas at the end after season 7, because season 7 is supposed to be the final season of Stargate SG-1, and going to Stargate Atlantis, which is a great show. But then after season 7, they were like, "Oh shit, people still want this shit, and we can just replace a few actors and keep going," and they did that. I don't hate it though. Like it's weird. It's not the same show as Stargate SG-1 is. Stargate SG-1 is this like weird monster of the week, we're fighting aliens thing. After season 7, it becomes very much more like less story and more lore, which is a little unfortunate. Stargate Atlantis is the perfect mix of it.
Just want a quick add to that. In universe, Nog is the only person to have won the Kobayashi Maru because he haggled. Which is perfect.
Wait. Is this a real thing?
I don't know. I'm gonna read. Matt Lipton just sent a super chat. Thank you so much, Matt. And we'll answer his question. But then I kind of want to go back to. There's a list of how some famous Star Trek characters passed the Kobayashi or did the Kobayashi Maru. So, all right. So, hey Tristan, I'm working a serious concept. It's basically mocking Canadian colonialism. Think like Blackadder meets Heritage Minutes. Any aspect of our colonial history I should keep in mind. I always think there's one case where we just like a bunch of Sikh refugees tried to come to Canada, and we just left them on that ship until they died. We just wouldn't let them dock in the harbor because they had stopped by Japan on their way from India to Canada. And it's a story that we do not get a lot of attention for. And also just that the shit's hanging on today. Like, I don't know. The freaking like what's it called, the wet sweat and stuff. Like, don't forget that this is all tied to today. But yeah, it consistently goes on. All right, I want to find. I found here. I think I got it here. So here are some Kobayashi Maru attempts by other people other than the ones that we know.
By the way, I found the source for the Nog thing, so you can say your thing and then I can contribute.
Well, do yours because I got a few.
Well, it's Nog. I find the source where Nog does it. He does it in a comic book that I think is canon. He solves it in two ways. In one case, he lures the enemy onto his own ship, which he has set to self-destruct, but with the announcement volume so low that only he can hear it. That's interesting. And in the haggling scenario, when the simulated Romulan commander tries to demand his surrender, Nog replies, "Name your price," and proceeds to haggle until the simulation crashes because the programmers had never considered the possibility of haggling. Both ways, he beat it twice.
Man, and, what a fucking short king.
He is the best character in Star Trek. He's the best officer that Starfleet has, apparently.
Yeah. He's pretty badass. All right, here's one we got here. When Montgomery Scott took the test, he utilized a trick of deflector shields, a weakness in shield frequencies, to eliminate numerous Klingon warships, achieving a long-running stalemate by targeting the crux of linked shield bubbles, first with photon torpedoes and then by beaming antimatter canisters into the linked shields. So he made their shields. He made their shields bubble each other so that they were in the same shield bubble. Then he just started beaming antimatter pods to explode by the ships. That's very Scotty. So that's interesting. Okay, Sulu. Okay. What did Sulu do? He chose to follow the letter of the law and declined to violate the Klingon neutral zone. Okay.
All
right. Chekhov found himself outmatched by the attackers. Despite his ability to pitch a longer firefight, Chekhov instead chose to rush to the end of the simulation by adopting a scorched earth policy, luring a large number of attackers into range and self-destructing the simulation. Okay. I don't know who Cadet Piper is. Whatever. There's got to be some good ones. Oh yeah, Riker. Riker took the test. He ordered an EVA suit to be brought to him so he could fight the enemy by hand.
Well, apparently it didn't work. He didn't win, but the gambit was apparently so cool that Jean-Luc Picard liked it.
Yeah, Riker.
Like it's a good move. It didn't work, but it's cool.
Riker is Riker's whole thing. His whole style, right, is that he's very clever, right?
Yeah, he's very unpredictable.
Yeah,
He's a bit of a joker.
Because there's that one episode where Kirk and Riker have to beat each other in war games.
One of the best episodes of the show.
And Riker gets the shitty, little ship, right? And so he has to, find some clever way to beat the Enterprise with, an old Miranda-class thing.
Yeah, and he's not supposed to win.
But I think they
And
get attacked by
it
Ferengi and they
doesn't.
have to work together. I think that's how it ends.
Yeah, but the solution that he has though is so funny because the ship doesn't have warp capability, and they know that. But the way they solve for that is that what's the kid's name that everyone hates?
Wesley.
Wesley. Wesley has dilithium crystals in his school project, so he goes back and says, "Oh, I forgot. I need to check on my school project before I go because I'm a stupid kid." And then he takes the crystals, goes back. They
Because
repair
I'm a
the warp
stupid
system.
kid. 'Cause-
Yeah, and then they do the Picard maneuver, which is where they do like a very short jump, so it appears that the ship is in two places at the same time. Which the ship wasn't supposed to be able to do. It's such a cool fucking episode.
That's what
It's the one of the best episodes that I've seen because I remember every detail of it so well. It's so engaging.
Is that the episode that has the alien who, like, the designers were just like one aspect, strategy? This is an alien
Yeah.
species that's just obsessed with strategy. They play a board game called Stratagema. And then, like, because Data has a whole B plot where he's trying to learn how to beat him at it.
Yeah, and he can't. Like he loses to the fucking strategy alien, but eventually manages to win by not playing to win, but playing to like playing to
Frustrate him to
stalemate.
death. He frustrates him until he quits, basically.
Yeah, rage quitting his opponent and wins by default. Fucking good episode. Even the B plot is funny. Fuck.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. The next question we got here is: it is known the introduction of Esri Dax was because Terry Farrell left DS9, and her leaving was most likely due to Rick Berman being quite harsh in trying to get her on for DS9's final season, where he like the answer is he super fucking lowballed her and paid her like nothing, because he basically was like, "You're not going to get a job anywhere else." And so she was like, "Fuck you, I quit," and then actually didn't get a job anywhere else, but that's a different story. She's not an actor anymore. Yet I do find Esri Dax to be an interesting character. How would we think of elements in a story which may be good but have problematic origins like this? Well, first of all, Esri Dax and Nicole DeBoer are amazing. And the decisions surrounding that have more to do with the management of the show rather than the writers and directors. Like, and also Ira Bear, being a fucking master of storytelling, managed to characterize Esri Dax a lot in one season when they also had the big war and the finishing of all the major storylines. So that was actually pretty impressive. Do you have much to say? Do you have feels about Esri Dax?
Not really. I'm looking up a little bit about like the actors right now. That's why I'm a bit quiet. Yeah, I don't really have much to say. I didn't really like Esri Dax, to be honest. I thought that the whole. I honestly thought that the show kind of fell apart at around that moment.
Yeah, maybe.
Which,
Like, she had some good
like,
episodes. Like, I really loved they did an episode that was sort of a tribute to Silence of the Lambs, where she's hunting down a murderer, and in order to like understand the murderer, she has to tap into that one Dax host who was like a serial killer. That was a great episode.
like I definitely think that, like I don't have anything against the actor or like any like storyline specifically, but I think that I just felt like the whole thing became a bit messy during the transition between Jadzia Dax and Esri Dax.
Yeah, it definitely ate up a good chunk of season 7, where, like, you know, for the last season of the show where the war was supposed to be at its absolute peak, that season got very distracted.
Yeah,
Because it also had the baseball episode and the casino heist episode, and
yeah, it's just very messy, and I think that sort of like disconnected me a little bit from the show, unfortunately. But I don't have too much strong opinions. It's a good show still.
yeah. I honestly got a lot out of Esri Dax's story. There's a few things. There's a really trying to remember. Anyways, Ezri Dax has a whole lot more of the sort of like trans allegory in her story than with Jadzia. Because by the time you meet Jadzia, she's already kind of figured it out. So Ezri has more of the transition story, where she like multiple times talks about not being able to figure out her pronouns and has to deal with like her family not understanding why she did it and like all this stuff. And like the general like just confusion of like changing relationships with people and all that kind of stuff. That I thought was really solid. Like the one thing about her is that I think that they had even with like a 22 episode season or whatever, they managed to do a lot with her in a very short amount of time. And honestly, this is a very spicy take, but it looked like they had kind of gotten themselves in a corner with Jadzia by that point anyway. Like you realize that Jadzia, there wasn't really that many Trill episodes happening anymore. And if she was having any episodes, it was something to do with Worf or it was something to do with Klingons.
Yeah.
And Worf kind of took all of the Jadzia used to be the Klingon ambassador storylines and kind of made it more about him. So they had kind of like they had kind of done everything that they were going to do with her by that point. And Ezri like made it so that the character could still have some more juice in that last bit. But I think the main problem is that would have been great for like season 6, but the last season of the show when all the storylines are supposed to be coming together was a bit of an awkward time to do it.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Oh yeah, season 7 is that one where like Gul Dukat starts fucking Kaiwyn, and they both get into Bajoran Satanism.
Yes! Yes! Okay, but that's funny though. I remember that shit.
Yeah.
The Bajoran Satanism arc is like you can tell that like they're running short of ideas at this point. And they were looking to spice things up. That's good shit.
I just love it just gets great when they start fucking. When Gul Dukat disguises himself as a Bajoran and like seduces the Bajoran Pope. It's perfect. Despite the fact that like it's the same actor, so you can tell like the voice is the same and everything like that, and he would totally be clockable if you were just paying attention a little bit.
Yeah. Speaking of this, by the way, I just clicked download on Star Trek Online because all of this talk of Star Trek is making me hunger for more content.
Do it. Okay. I have a bad taste in my mouth for Star Trek Online, but it's not the fault of Star Trek Online. And the main because what happened, I followed Star Trek Online's development very closely. And the thing is that this is the second company to have picked up Star Trek Online. Because they had another developer was working on it, and then they get the project dropped. And the idea that they had was way better than what we got. Because the original concept that was being worked on was a game where your guild, basically, was a starship. And you played different people on the ship, like different officers and stuff. And you would handle situations as like a group. And if you were offline, your character would turn into an NPC. And so there's this whole like, you're on the spaceship, and like you'd have adventures. But instead they made it so that everybody's a captain and they get their own ship, and you can microtransaction your way through it. So
yeah, there's a lot of microtransactions in that, unfortunately.
Yeah. And yes, the best episode of Deep Space Nine, the baseball episode, is in season 7. So
yes,
there is that.
The best episode.
There's
ongoing war, but
underappreciated is the casino heist episode, where again
I don't actually remember that episode. I'll have to. I'm like I can feel myself because I'm gonna have like a weird couple of days coming up where I don't have to work. So I'm just gonna spend the next like 3 days binging Star Trek. I know this is gonna happen.
Basically, the plot of the episode is that Vic Fontaine's program has built into it some like plot lines that have to do with like the casino and stuff like that, when like they were just enjoying him as like a member of the crew almost, and as like a sort of like place to go to listen to music. But basically, a Star Trek happens where they basically are like, well, this plot has been hard-coded into the story, so if it doesn't resolve, then we can't get Vic Fontaine out of it, so we have to actually resolve the story properly to deal with the fact that he's in debt to gangsters. Then one of the best moments is that like they go to see Cisco about helping with this, and Cisco's like, I've never gone to that thing because it's a recreation of a Las Vegas casino in the 60s, and it's fake because of how much racism existed towards black people in that period. So like I've never gone because like fuck that shit, which is like the best answer. But then they talk him into it and then they do a whole basically like a casino heist episode of Deep Space Nine, which is just beautiful.
Yes.
And they even get like this famous actor from gangster movies to show up. Am I enjoying Discovery season 4? Yes, I like it a lot. I
still need to finish season 3.
Yeah. Season 4, the main thing is, as far as we can tell now, not a evil plot, like not an evil villain. It's like a natural phenomenon that's destroying planets.
Oh, that's more fun.
Which means that the episodes are having way more time to spend time with characters.
Finally.
Yeah, like they like the last episode had a whole plot about Adira's boyfriend. Oh god, I forget what his name is now. But I don't know if you know the story of those two. You wouldn't because you haven't seen season 3.
No.
But Adira,
I really want to, but I haven't been asked.
Adira's boyfriend was a joined Trill who died, and Adira is a human, and they managed to figure out how to get the symbiont to go inside them. But that led, because like humans aren't supposed to be joined with Trills, it led to this weird thing where they were seeing their boyfriend almost like a ghost. And then at the end of the season, they're like, well, there's actually like a person still in here, so let's try to find a way to get him a body. And like you'll love season 3 because one of the main things about season 3 and 4 is that they're building this little like queer family thing. Where
I've heard about that. That's what I really want to get into.
And so yeah, like this like really cute love story that's developing about trying to save each other is between the first trans and the first non-binary Star Trek characters, and it's like, oh, this is adorable.
Fuck yes.
And I think it's a really nice nod that the first trans Star Trek character is a Trill.
I know, right? Like that's something that I was also looking forward to, because Trills have always been like the trans allegory for Star Trek, except for that one weird episode with where Riker. I
thought you were going to talk about what's it called? What's it called? Latinum and Lace, the most awkward of the Mrs. Doubtfire episode. Oh, that's a rough one.
Listen, there's a lot of good episodes. It's a lot of bad ones too.
Yeah. But yeah, the one where there's the non-binary aliens that Riker seduces, and then is like, I believe in binary gender now, because I'm man.
Yeah, a race of non-binary people with people being binary, which is like this weird reversal, which Star Trek loves to do, which is great.
Yeah, someone did point out. Yeah, I remember this. That Rom was actually like the actor who played Rom was basically a semi-professional baseball player, so they had to make him play with his offhand so that he could appear bad for the episode. I do remember that. It's a great little bit of trivia about that show, because he was he's left-handed, so they made him play baseball right-handed so that he could, because the whole plot of the episode is that Rom is really bad, and then they kick him off the team because Cisco wants to beat the Vulcans, but then. Everyone's like, no, baseball's fun. It's supposed to be for fun. Get Rom back, even if he's bad, because we love him. And it was great. That episode is. I don't even like baseball, and that episode is just beautiful.
Star Trek is such a wonderful adventure show.
Yeah. All right, next we got. Oh.
No, you go.
Next question
We've
we
been
got
talking for
is
this topic about like an hour, so we need to go to some questions.
yeah. Thoughts on Vice? I'm generally positive about it, but I also know it gave us Gavin McInnes and Tim Pool. Plus, Jake Hanrahan of Popular Front has gone on record says he feels Vice sold out.
Vice is weird because they're like a little decentralized compared to other places, other like journalistic outlets.
I mean, have they sold out? Well, they started as a Montreal-based like graffiti magazine, so yeah, they've sold out quite a bit.
This is true.
It's kind of the same story as the Young Turks, where the Young Turks has given us Jimmy Dore and freaking Dave Rubin, and there's some other shitty people that it gave us, but I'm scratching to think.
There's a lot of these websites end up like just producing weird people. Unfortunately. I don't hate Vice. I think Vice has produced some like pretty decent shit. They did an article about me fucking like when I was an activist, fuck all years ago, and I appreciated that. That's still around.
Someone just said in the messy divorce between CBS and Paramount, CBS was allowed to keep the trademark Star Trek, but wasn't allowed to keep the look and feel of the original series. TLDR, I'm boycotting STD. Well, CBS and Paramount have worked out their issues. They are remarried.
Are they?
Yeah, that's why CBS All Access is now Paramount Plus, and the
oh yeah.
And this is why they don't know what to do with the movies, because they basically the Kelvin timeline doesn't have to be exclusive anymore because they don't have rights issues to deal with. So they're trying to figure out what to do with the movie or with the Kelvin timeline stuff. Sorry, I'm just following the chat.
But, no, that's fine.
But yeah,
someone's asking if I can find the article. I can't find it anywhere. I'm not sure if it's even up anymore, but they posted it in like 2014 or something. It was ages ago. So it's possible they got lost.
Yeah. All right. Next question we got here is, in many former colonies, you will find some people who will say that colonialism was actually good for their countries. They usually justify it in terms of economic and infrastructure growth, or the fact that once the colonizers left, many of the patterns continue between ethnic groups in terms of intercommunal conflicts. They also sometimes like the cultural influences from the colonizers, like new languages. If you met one of these people, what would you A, say to them, and B, respond if they said that you, as a white person, don't understand their perspective?
I feel like that's one of those conversations that aren't... I feel like, if me personally, the way I would deal with that is probably by not having that conversation. Like, I feel like I'm not equipped enough to do that. Generally,
one of my very good friends who I spend a lot of time with here is she immigrated from India only a few years ago, so she's still very much like coming from very much like has only been in India for like, I think, or only in Canada for, I think she's in her fourth year of her PhD or third year. Anyways, came from Calcutta to do that. And we've had a lot of conversations about stuff like this, and it's sort of like the same type of argument you have when you get, and I'm sure you've gotten this before, really, really anti-communist comments from people from the former Eastern Bloc. And it's like, okay, sure. Like, a lot of like there are responses to all of those things. Like the infrastructure thing is like, okay, but the infrastructure was all designed with an idea of extracting resources from your country. And that a lot of those ethnic tensions and stuff that flared up after they left is more to deal with the way that colonization treated them and the sort of political institutions that colonization propped up. And then abandoning them without or either creating a country through a messy revolution, or the colonial powers just cutting and running with no help. Both of those revolutions can be very good, but but just like the legacy of domination through violence has become part of the political institutions that need to be dealt with. Yeah, it's a complicated conversation. I think that taking their point of view is important to talk about. But again, it's missing a lot of the history that is associated with this.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times what they're saying is stuff that they have heard more than stuff that's actually true.
That's a good point.
Like, yeah, they built infrastructure. That's the story they tell themselves. Like, the Belgians built so much infrastructure in Congo. It was all railroads to extract as much rubber out of Congo as possible.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the answers I've heard have been like, have just been like, okay, where's that infrastructure now then? Like, if they built so much good infrastructure, like, where is it? If not for still, in a lot of places, doing resource extraction.
Yeah.
Well, and like every time they point at like some massive infrastructure project, being like, well, we have this good infrastructure. It's always post-colonial.
Yeah,
like every time.
And even the infrastructure that is set up, what it does is it sets them up for a role on the lower end of the totem pole of international relations. Like, if you're a country like Congo that was used by the Belgians to basically just be a place for extracting as much rubber as possible, then when they leave, the only economy you have is rubber. And the only infrastructure you have is for maximizing the export of rubber. But the thing is, monocrop export-based economies like that are very prone to economic downturns and things like that. And so really they're setting at like countries that really like if they were like really caring about infrastructure, they would have done stuff like set up factories or build cities or things like that. When like the only city the Belgians set up was Leopoldville, which they quickly abandoned after when the Congolese took over. So yeah, basically, yeah, they built a lot of infrastructure between the ports and the plantations. And the thing is, unfortunately, this is the really nasty part about colonialism, is that in like terms of like urban design and planning and stuff like that, it means that like all of this physical infrastructure like shapes the way the country is, and it's really hard to just like ignore it or pull it all up. So like it really like the sort of physical things put in place, especially when you're a country that's struggling for money because you're a newly decolonized country, leaves you with little option but to basically, and then also American corporations show up and be like, we'll give you shit tons of money to develop all this stuff, but you have to let US corporations control all of your resources.
Yeah.
Because I had a long conversation, because like this also comes up when a lot of people talk about like when people try to pull like Islamophobic arguments. It's like, oh well, like you know, the culture there is so like is like run by like fanatics and all these kinds of things, and it's like the only reason why those people are in power are because the U.S. showed up to fuck up their to fuck up the left so that they could put corporations. It's like Afghanistan, like the Afghanistan people didn't choose the Taliban originally. They chose the communists. Like the Afghanistan was a communist country for a while. So
you gotta remember to fund anti-Soviet insurgents. This will not backfire in any way. Anti-Soviet warrior puts his army on the road to peace, remember?
Oh God. But yeah, like colonization, I think is just like not only do they leave, but like it leaves scars on the country that make it very hard to recover. And a lot of the people who say shit like that are people who benefited from the colonial system, because a lot of those countries, those former colonial countries, end up being extremely unequal in income, where there are a fuck ton of people who are just scraping to survive, and a small minority that are living in absolute like luxury. And the people who often say these things about like, oh, it's better off, are the people, guess what side of that hill they fall on? Yeah.
Exactly.
Sometimes train bad, is all I'm saying. Sometimes train tool of colonial oppression. Anyways. Next question, very simple one that we can answer very quickly. How do we dispel the liberal romanticism of small business?
Well, I think a good way to mention that is just to like show some basic statistics talking about like wage theft and like overtime abuse and workplace harassment, and just showing that like small businesses are as bad, if not worse, than big businesses on occasion. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, everything that's wrong with big business is also wrong with small business.
Yeah, pointing out the whole small business tyrant thing. And also because they're smaller, they're typically less regulated, and so they can get away with more shit.
Yeah. Like, like a small cafe typically doesn't have like an HR department. And won't have inspectors coming in to make sure that everything is okay. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Ooh, here's a good one. Submitted to the approval of the stream hosts, may the YouTuber Bad Empanada be submitted for the Monday Discourse Seal of Cringe. Oh no, we've started something.
Again?
Oh, did we already do this one?
We already gave Bad Empanada a certificate of cringe.
All right, maybe I just forgot to delete that question.
Oh, we can do it again. Second week in a row.
2. You get 2.
You get 2. Stop.
If you want to build a leftist cause, stop making your entire Twitter presence attacking anarchists. That's all I'm asking.
Is that what they've been doing?
That's what Bad Empanada's new thing is. Hating anarchists is now the new thing.
Because as we know, anarchists are in control of the government in many of the Western worlds that are currently prohibiting the left.
Listen,
they are clearly the biggest obstacle here.
As somebody who's been an anarchist for going on 12, 13 years now, I really, really do not like that in more recent years, a certain YouTuber who may or may not bun his hair has now conflated anarchism with blanket support of U.S. power and U.S. hegemony, which is essentially the opposite of what anarchism is supposed to be about. But because this certain bunned YouTuber is so popular, that now a lot of his followers are identifying as anarchists while supporting Joe Biden and basically supporting U.S. intervention all over the world. And it's like, I hate this. I hate it here. I guess it's like, what's happening? Like, it's like he's doing to anarchism what frickin' European social democrats did to social democracy in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we're social democrats, which means we're going to do all right-wing things and just that.
Oh my god. Yeah. I don't get. Okay, as a non-anarchist, like I'm not, I jive with a lot of anarchist ideas, but I don't think that I would call myself like an anarchist fully. Why so many people fucking hate anarchists? This isn't the Spanish Civil War anymore. Why the fuck are people doing this? It makes no fucking sense. People will talk about having a big tent coalition so that they can say slurs, and then just like, okay, but here are like 4 very established leftist ideas that like are productive and have like infrastructure. And we're not going to use those because we don't like them, but we do need to have a big tent with the slur sayers. Those are important. They're more important than
if you
So,
want
like,
the
historically important, like, leftist ideologies.
if you want
Why?
the answer, it's incredibly stupid. It's because the left is relitigating a war that has been over for 100 years, or almost
Yes.
100 years, because there was a lot of tension between anarchists and the Bolsheviks during the Russian Civil War, where anarchists were like, all right, the royalty's been overthrown, we're going to run our own communes and just kind of manage ourselves, while the Bolsheviks were like, all right, the monarch's overthrown, now time for us to violently consolidate power around our political party and jail all the dissidents. So you had issues like the Ukrainians are backing around this like anarchist bandit who is basically just setting up communes all around the country that are not loyal to Moscow. Well, got to send the Red Army in to take out that. Or this group of anarchist longshoremen are striking because they want to get better wages. Well, got to shell them. So it's like,
Speaking of that, by the way, there's a speaking of, like, I know that I'm completely pivoting from the point, but I saw a screenshot from Victoria 3 that has like that Ukrainian anarchist like movement
The
as a thing
Makhnovists?
that you can play at.
you can play as Nestor Makhno and the black army. That's awesome.
I think so. I think it's called like the free Ukrainian territories or something like that.
Yeah. So that's the main thing, is that anarchists have always been a sort of annoyance to the Bolsheviks specifically, like the Soviet Union Communist Party, and a lot of like more authoritarian Marxists today still hold some misguided loyalty to a country that has been dead for longer than many of them have been alive now.
Daddy Stalin is gonna come back any day and fix the world.
And instead of learning from where the Soviet Union might not have been the perfect leftist project, instead it's just doubling down on defending them no matter what the context or anything, which is like, oh, that's good. And especially just hating anarchists because they just assume that we are either fascists, because the propaganda against Nestor Makhno was that he was a fascist, or assuming that we are somehow and then also now what's it called, certain man bun anarchists who are just supporting the United States and undermining the leftist effort by just getting saying that it can be radical leftist to vote for Joe Biden. Don't you know that? And it's like, oh god.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's partly Twitter doing Twitter, but then it's also partly us still like fighting over a war that literally ended in 1924. So fun.
If there's something that leftists cannot do, it's let go of a grudge.
Yes.
Oh, anyway.
The next question we got here is, how close was the U.S. to revolution in 1968? Been wanting to make a video about this. The answer is actually closer than you would think. 1968 was...
Is that the year of all the protests?
It was the year of a lot of protests.
Anti-war. Yeah.
It was... So, it was the year of, like... Yeah, let me just get this. Let me get all this stuff right. Yeah, it was the year Martin Luther King was assassinated, which was basically the end of like whatever force in the civil rights movement was attached to like, you know, non-violent resistance. And at the same time, it was also the time when the civil rights movement was, because the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was starting to not really move the needle on making things more equal for everybody. The like black rights, like the civil rights movement was starting to become more radical. The Black Panthers were starting to become more of a thing, and a lot more of like, you know, maybe this like Martin Luther King, let's be nice and all that kind of thing isn't really working. So that was more of a thing. Then also the draft in Vietnam was creating a huge anti-war movement that was so bad that the president of the United States lost the New Hampshire primary and had to drop out of the race. So think about that. Think about the sitting president losing the Democratic primary for his re-election, and then so badly that he had to resign. Then the candidate that was the most popular candidates, one of them gets fucking assassinated right after a primary, which was Robert Kennedy. Then, after that happening, having the clear winner of the delegates, Eugene McCarthy, walking into the Chicago DNC, and then them deciding, actually, no, we're going with Hubert Humphrey, freaking LBJ's vice president, and that everyone hates. And so that story is a very old one. So does that not sound familiar? So it led to like a huge riot in Chicago. Now, while nothing was organized, there was a fuck ton of civil unrest in the United States in 1968. And between like the more radicalizing civil rights movement and the more radicalizing like left or whatever, baby boomer left, you could have seen some serious violence if Richard Nixon hadn't won the election, basically, and was like, actually, we're gonna like really chill out on the Vietnam War now.
I don't know anything about like that part of American history, so
this is what I took my PhD in. What's it called? I did my comps exam on post Civil War U.S., so I can answer a lot of questions on that topic. Was nice. LBJ the last president with decent domestic politics? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think McGovern would have in the 1972 election, but he lost really badly. And the Democrats basically took a lesson as we went too far to the left. So Jimmy Carter was much more right-wing than any Democratic president had been at that point. And it just kept going from there. Hey, let's get a question that you can answer. Suppose you write a book or make a video and release it. A huge chunk of your audience tells you it's racist or sexist, but you respond that it isn't because the meaning of the medium is different than what everyone read. People keep saying otherwise, and you say they shouldn't read your work in the manner that they're reading it in. Are you being stubbornly denialist, or is the audience gaslighting you on your own work? P.S. Keep in mind that that anyone from J.K. Rowling to ContraPoints has been attacked for this reason. So bear in mind when answering.
That's a good point. I would say that probably a little bit of both. Like, books belong to their readers is something that I've always been like a firm believer of. And what people read into those books, I feel like is a real thing that they're reading into those books. That you can't really avoid, but at the same time, like occasionally audiences will infer things from media that just plain isn't there or like has no intention of being there. I think the only thing you can do there is like, instead of being like, hey, you're reading it wrong, because I don't think that works. Because from the fundamental principle that, like, again, books belong to the readers, it's just being like, I think you're like, you can just say that, like, I think you're wrong. I don't see it like that, and then you can just like learn from that, and like be a bit more like overt to counter that narrative in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got two answers on it that I don't really know how happy I feel about them. So the first one is I totally agree with you on that. And to build on that, I think that as a person who makes stuff for public consumption, you have to be kind of aware of how things are going to be interpreted. That being said, you have no idea how people are going to interpret things 100%. And if a interpretation of your work gets away from you in that fashion. I would probably, and I disagreed with it. Like, it was not what I was going for, but people interpreted something in a certain way. I would probably be like, that's not what I mean. I would explain myself, but I wouldn't say that their interpretation is wrong. And I would definitely take that kind of thought into consideration when I'm talking about either furthering that or use it really to build off and have more conversations. Though there is another side to it, and I think you hit on this, but I'd love to flesh it out, which is there's also what I would argue is probably the shitty thing that Disney did to the way we consume media, which is that we cannot abide by having film or any sort of media that has characters within that are people who are imperfect or not necessarily good characters. Like, I just saw the other day this person who was trying to do this thing that was like, it was talking about how people are getting into The Sopranos again. And it was like this whole post about how, it was an article about like, oh, The Sopranos isn't as good as you thought it was. Did you know that Tony Soprano does like sexism and racism and is like horrible? And I'm like, yeah. Oh my God. Shitty personality traits in the show about an actual like crime lord. Okay, interesting. That's
have
neat.
Have you seen the TikTok that's just like they show a clip from Hairspray the musical where they like sing about like every year we have our N-word day, and there's like, I had no idea Hairspray was so racist. Oh. And it's just like, that's the plot.
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
Like, I feel like this discourse came up when we were talking about the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. Like, it was also like, how can you like this? He's so bad. And it's like, okay, but like, movies about people who are bad people can be good, and you don't have to like the protagonist of every piece of fiction. And so some of it, I think, is that weird thing, and I feel like Disney has a lot to do with creating that. Now that like every Marvel character has to be like a perfect, like Marvel movies in general have made it so that every protagonist has to be a good and righteous person, basically.
Yes.
While and that a main character that has serious flaws is bad and will contribute to the corruption of society, which I think is fucking a terrible way to enjoy media. And I think those people are miserable at the end of the day, because it's basically impossible to like anything at that point. But then there's the other one, which is just like legitimate. Like, sometimes your stuff can be misinterpreted, or you could have, or you can miscommunicated, or just people ran with an idea that you could have never interpreted and gone with it. And in those cases, I think that's like, speaking out against that interpretation is fine to some extent, but just realize like it's not I think just making it clear that's not a reflection on you. Yeah. Like, I don't believe this. This is how some people have interpreted it, but it's not how I take it. Yeah. And honestly, if we're talking about fiction, if I was making like a sequel to that or something, I would actually use that to inform the way that I write in the future.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
But yeah, I do. The Disney effect on protagonists specifically is like, you couldn't do Taxi Driver today. The discourse would have been like, it would have been like Joker.
I also feel like the way Twitter works also contributes to this. Just because, like I feel like, maybe that doesn't contribute to it, but you can see a similar pattern happening on Twitter where you can post anything, and people will find the weirdest way to like interpret what you're saying and draw like the wildest conclusion of it.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I feel like that happens with all sorts of media. And I think, yeah, just being wary of the fact that happens, I think, makes you avoid a lot of criticism, and also just like being able to like learn from it is also to go forward. Mm-hmm. But as you said, like, you don't take it too much to heart, because people are weird sometimes.
Yeah, like 255 pointed out a couple weeks ago, in Ian Banks' The Culture, which is like a leftist anarchist far future version, kind of like if the Foundation was good. Basically, he like because all of those people were like edgy atheists in the 1970s, he made the evil aliens like religious fanatics. Because he was trying to, like, you know, just trying to make like that, like, oh, like these people are rational atheists fighting irrational people who are trying to make the world into a dark age again, which has got problems, but not as many as, like, you know, the way that it would be interpreted later, which is that alt-right people got into it and said that, oh, these are Muslims. Like, this is like us fighting the good fight against Muslims. And it's like, I don't know if Ian Banks, like, writing in like the fucking 70s could have interpreted that there was just going to be this hyper racist fascist campaign against Muslims like in 40 years. And you really can't control that stuff. And honestly, at this point, Ian Banks is far too dead to be talking about it. So that's just how it is. And like, yeah, people will misinterpret work all the time. That's just that is life.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the death of the author really means that people can interpret works in a million different ways, which means we can endlessly talk about everything forever. But it also means that, yeah, some interpretations are going to be really disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, but it is 2:00 on the dot.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
already,
so,
yeah.
Mia,
time moves quick.
My time, yeah, time is relative. So. Before we go, though, I think you should tell everybody where all of your content can be consumed.
You can consume my content on youtube.com/c/Mulder. Lucid Fox just rated us in the worst possible moment.
Yeah, we are literally wrapping up the stream, but we'll go. We'll
wrapping it up. Like we're about to end it. In less than a minute. You can find myself on twitter.com/Potato Politics or on twitch.tv/MiaMulder. You can listen to my podcast. It's called Leech Fest. I host it with a close friend. It's very good. It's about medical history. And we just made a podcast episode about magic mushrooms. And we're doing good stuff there too. It's a good thing if you're wanting to get into it. Mm-hmm. I like how both of us are getting into podcasts now too.
Yeah. All right, and we're going to go... there's actually not a lot of choice online right now, so we're going to go raid Hassan Piker. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow night. And yeah, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, be good. Peace.
Peace.